Hi everyone, my name is Herkev and today we'll embark on yet another adventure in hardcore Minecraft. But as per usual, we've added a bit of a twist. Normally, when you boot up the game and start a brand spanking new world, the very first thing you do is most likely to locate and punch some wood to make a crafting table, to in turn craft your first set of tools. However, I'm not a normal player, as I have reached an absolutely unparalleled level of self-loathing, and those of you that have been watching my other content are most likely aware that my level of intellect leaves a lot to be desired, and that I keep making decisions that make my life significantly harder than it needs to be. This time won't be any different, as we'll be doing exactly that, by attempting to beat hardcore Minecraft without ever using a crafting table. And just to make things even more spicy, I will not use any armor whatsoever. So I created our world with the aforementioned premise and named the world No Crafting Table and left the seed blank, which brought us on to the most exciting part of any game, that being to stare at the loading screen. And once we had finished staring at the loading screen in a very epic demeanor, we spawned on the top of a tree. However, since we're not allowed to use a crafting table, we don't actually have a use for wood, meaning that I didn't have to collect any. This meant that we've successfully started playing and had already been given a small win. However, since I know how things usually go, I knew that it would most likely go downhill from here. But now you might be thinking to yourself, how are you actually going to beat this challenge? If we're not allowed to use a crafting table, we can't craft any tools, weapons, or anything that would help us get to the end. And the answer to that question is the child-friendly and, dare I say, wholesome act of partaking in criminal activities. And the crime that I have in mind is burglary, as villages have a chance of generating a blacksmith which could hold iron tools. We also have ruined portals, which can give us golden tools, but an added bonus to finding a village is that there's a chance that they spawn with smithing tables, meaning that we could buy our tools from villagers, which would make my life slightly more tolerable. So our main goal was to locate a village, which we rather conveniently managed to find pretty much instantly. So I ran in and proceeded with the first burglary of this world. I started off by grabbing all of the hay bales we could find. And now you might be wondering what good hay bales will do for us, as we can't craft bread, and my almost frighteningly genius and innovative master plan was to craft them all into wheat to then trade with a farmer to get my hands on emeralds. However, the first village didn't seem to have anything particularly useful except for some bread and beds, so I headed over to the second village, which we had spotted on our way to the first one. So I repeated the exact same process as before, but as I was relocating the village's belongings into my pockets, I noticed that there was a monster spawner right in the middle of the village, but unfortunately, it didn't have anything of interest. And just to add insult to injury, this village didn't seem to have any workstations that I was after, so I set off once again in hopes of finding something useful in our next target for burglary. But once I found it, I was faced with the exact same problem, which put me in an existential crisis, wondering where my life went wrong. So I set off once again, but this time we headed into a savanna. And to those of you who didn't know, savanna villages have a chance of generating buckets in its chest loot, which would make it significantly easier to make a portal to the Nether, as that would mean that we won't have to get a diamond pickaxe to mine obsidian, like some sort of second-class citizen. And shortly after having entered the savanna, I spotted our fourth village in this video, but rather annoyingly, the village didn't have any buckets, though it didn't end there, as I was able to find both a grindstone as well as a blast furnace, meaning that I had run into a village that had both an armorer and weaponsmith, but no toolsmith. So I traded the wheat, which I had acquired through my series of crimes, to one of the people from whom I had stolen said wheat, and got back to the thrilling adventure of trying to find a village with a toolsmith. And shortly thereafter, I managed to spot our fifth village, but right as I was making my way there, I decided to tame a horse, as we had gotten a saddle earlier, and as I arrived at the village, I noticed that we had found exactly what we were looking for, making my life ever so slightly more worth living. So I bought a few stone pickaxes and explored the rest of the village, where I found yet another smithing table, which was very epic. But now that we had our first tool as well as a tiny bit of dopamine, I went off once more in search of ruined portals. The reason we had to find a bunch of ruined portals was because the next step involved me going to the Nether, and ruined portals have a chance of having obsidian in their chests. So I thought that going for ruined portals would be more pleasant than acquiring a diamond pickaxe to, in turn, spend enough time to remove all seeds from a strawberry, just mining obsidian. And shortly after having set off once more, I managed to spot our first ruined portal, though I rather quickly realized that using a horse to climb a mountain wasn't a particularly pleasant experience, so I decided to ditch the horse. But when I arrived at the portal, I was faced with a chest full of disappointment, which reminded me of myself and my accomplishments. Then continued the epic journey to get my slimy and greedy hands on enough obsidian to get to the Nether, though after having explored for a bit, I found myself in the first village that we had plundered, meaning that I had essentially just gone in a circle. And when I started exploring yet again, I found a spruce village, against which I decided to continue my series of illegal activities, as it would almost be rude not to. I then rinsed and repeated until I came across a pile of snow that had a basement. So I decided to convert the villagers using the zombified one already there, so that I could cure them in order to maximize my profits. I attempted to keep both separated, so that they wouldn't be able to hit each other once they are cured. However, due to my level of intelligence as well as my skill, or rather the lack thereof, that didn't go exactly as planned. But eventually, I did manage to separate them, successfully amounting to at least something in my life. It was then just a matter of curing them, using the supplies we found in the dank basement. I then turned one of the cured villagers to a toolsmith, as I had been a very smart young man who remembered to grab a smithing table from one of the previously plundered villages. My goal was to get my hands on a diamond axe as well as a diamond pickaxe, as the mission of acquiring obsidian from chest by ruined portals was failing miserably. Once I had acquired diamond tools in a very epic and action-packed manner, I rode back to a nearby ruined portal and started grabbing all the obsidian. And when we had acquired the previously mentioned obsidian, I made my way back to one of the villages that we had found earlier and constructed our portal. Just to put this in context, at this point, we had spent over 1.5 hours just getting to the Nether. I could most certainly have used said hour and a half doing something productive, like doing chores, learning a new skill, or expanding my knowledge by reading, but instead, I have chosen to use it to get to the Nether in a Minecraft challenge. And with that rather devastating reality check, I somehow managed to step into lava pretty much immediately, meaning that I could very well have perished, making the whole run completely wasted. However, I did manage to survive, which gave me a slight boost in dopamine, which was very epic. One good thing about this run was that we spawned in a nether waste biome, which together with the warped forest is the least fatal one. However, that didn't stop a moaning cloud from instigating a ping-pong battle with us, which I luckily won. I then noticed that the nether waste biome that we spawned in was bordering a crimson forest, which I wanted to avoid at all costs, as I would otherwise be likely to succumb to the harassment of the two different types of swine residing there. Then started the journey to get to a nether fortress. However, I happened to run into one pretty much immediately, which is very rare for me, as this game usually seems to absolutely despise me. So I scuttled my way over to the fortress and started looking for a blaze spawner, but I then found the entrance to the portion of the fortress with chests, which I decided to pillage. Once my impressively massive greed had been somewhat satiated, I got back to looking for a blaze spawner, and now you might be thinking, isn't it really risky to take on blazes without a shield? Wouldn't it be safer to try to get a potion of fire resistance? And my response to that would be yes, it most certainly would. But anyways, I located a blaze spawner and started gathering blaze rods. Though, as I was collecting the rods, I got hit by a blaze twice in quick succession, which almost ended my whole career. But after regaining my HP as well as a needful change of underwear, I got back to farming the blazes yet again, using the exact same strategy as before, making it quite apparent that I didn't learn a thing. But after having spent what felt like 11 minutes and 5 seconds, I had collected 8 blaze rods, just to make sure that I would never have to step foot into this abomination of a structure for the rest of this video. And since I had been such a productive and smart young man who collected a decent amount of obsidian, we could build the portal directly in the fortress, increasing the probability of keeping my cheeks unclapped by potential moaning clouds and aggressive swines. We then found ourselves in a savanna biome a few thousand blocks away from our spawn. Our next task to complete, in order of beating this challenge, was to get ender pearls as well as a bow and arrows. This meant that we had 2 options, as we could either go back to the Nether and do bartering with piglins or farm endermen in a warped forest or trading with villagers. I wasn't particularly keen on entering the Nether again without any armor, meaning that we had to go with the villager trading. This meant that we needed to find a village to grab both a brewing stand as well as a fletching table. So I got to exploring immediately and managed to find a village where I managed to get my hands on a brewing stand as well as buckets, which was a great start, as I thought that this meant that we were halfway done with this task. However, that wasn't the case. I plundered a ludicrous number of villages without finding a fletching table. In fact, I got so fed up of looking for it that I decided to trade with a cleric to get ender pearls and located the stronghold just so we knew where it was. But after having spent 1 hour, 37 minutes and 5 seconds, we finally managed to find a fletching table, and with that, I could finally buy a bow as well as a few stacks of arrows, meaning that we were ready for the dragon fight. So I made my way back to the stronghold that we had located earlier with immense glee, in high hopes of soon having completed this challenge, meaning that I wouldn't have to cause much further harm to my mental stability. I then got onto all Minecraft players' favorite pastime of mining my way down to a stronghold, but since I had acquired an enchanted diamond pickaxe during my epic excursion, this process was actually slightly less agonizing than usual. From there, I found the portal after another 2 minutes and 14 seconds, which some may argue wasn't very bad, though it definitely didn't feel like 2 minutes and 14 seconds, as it felt like it took closer to about 3 minutes and 14 seconds. Then began the dragon fight that was just as action-packed and intense as it always is. And after I had successfully spanked the dragon to death and grabbed its supposed offspring, our challenge came to an end. However, just like I did in our first hardcore challenge, I decided to go out to the End Islands and grab a pair of wings from an End City. I have absolutely no need for a set of wings, as I will most likely never play on this world again, but I thought it would be pretty funny to have the set of wings as my first equipment. I then proceeded to go through the End Gateway and was plonked right next to an End City with a ship, which was insanely lucky. And since the dragon had killed a bunch of people using its hot, steamy and moist breath, we had a few pearls, meaning that we wouldn't have to pillar to the island with the End City like some sort of barbaric bum. Though I couldn't really avoid pillaring to get to the boat, as I had yet to unlock that luxury, and when I made it onto the boat, I started shooting at its residents to seize their belongings, meaning that I had successfully upgraded from normal burglary to its armed variety, which was very epic. I then got my slimy and greedy hands on the wings as well as some other valuables that I decided to steal for absolutely no reason. And with that, I made it back to the main island and went through the portal, officially ending this challenge. So there we have it. I beat Minecraft Hardcore without using a crafting table. I hope you enjoyed the ride as much as I did. Please leave a like and subscribe if you did, and let me know if there are any other challenges you would like to see me take on. But anyways, I'll see you in the next one.